everyone, and welcome back to the Black Expat Experience, a live show and podcast highlighting the lived experiences of Black expats around the world. I am Kendall Tyson, your host, a licensed therapist and a fellow Black expat living in Beijing. We have, I know I say this every time, but we have another great episode in store for you today. And I'd like to welcome our newest guest, Denise, to the show. Hi, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you. So I'm so glad that you're here. I noticed that what is it? It's March, so it is Women's History Month. And I recognize that I've interviewed so many women recently. And I'm just always so intrigued and happy to get the different perspectives of women all over the world. So I'd like for you to start with giving us a bird's eye view of who you are. How would you describe yourself? What I call like your elevator pitch.
Okay, well, I guess first of all, just to say thank you. Thank you for having me. Um, yeah, it's great to be able to share. And I guess that's my overwhelming purpose and driver for having these conversations is just to share. So, as you said, I'm Denise Leander. I live in St Lucia and I have been living here since January of 2021. And who am I? Um, I'm me, who is a mum, a grandmum, a wife, an auntie, a friend, a confidant, and a self-employed operations consultant. And whilst I live here in St. Lucia, I still work for the same company that I used to work for in the UK. And it is just such a joy to be able to have continued to work for them whilst I transition to St. Lucia. So I am super grateful for being able to do that. It works for me, it works for them. Obviously, we're 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours time difference, but it works. And what's the worst thing about living in the Caribbean is getting up to work on UK time. If that's as bad as it gets, I'm good with that.
Yeah, sounds like putting things in perspective, honestly. It's like, okay, I'm 4 hours
Yeah,
behind, but I
absolutely.
got the beach, I got the sun, I got the good people, the great food, the family. I don't hear any, and the money that I've been making, I don't hear any pitfalls whatsoever.
Exactly that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I heard you share that currently you're a self-employed operations specialist, and I'm wondering, what does that look like? Is that in your, I know we tend to have our like 9 to 5 jobs and then our additional pursuits. I'm wondering which of those would you categorize that under?
So that's effectively my 9 to 5.
Okay.
So I support that business in terms of, I guess, twofold really, from a strategic perspective in terms of where are we now and where are we going. But then on a more day-to-day basis, it's making sure that operation is running successfully in all areas. So that's from an HR perspective. So I really drive and support people because that's my biggest passion is the people. So the people that we recruit, how we onboard them, how we induct them, how we train them, and how we look after them. The whole person, not just the professional skills that they bring. And then it's everything else. It's the marketing, it's the business development, you name it. I will wear all of those different hats. But actually, I really like that. I like having a gazillion different hats and juggling them all.
Yeah.
Um, I just find that, yeah, more, it works for me. So some people say, well, why do you do so many things? And I was like, because I like it. I like juggling, I like learning, I like having different experience. And I guess one of the things we'll probably touch on during the conversation is, and if you were able to speak to anybody who knows me really well, they know I like to be juggling. I'm not
Mm,
good at just doing that and just staying doing that. I like to do this, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and all those kind of things.
yeah.
And then the other thing that I am doing which is how we've connected, is coming to St Lucia. So this is the piece of personal work that I'm pursuing at the moment, which is supporting, hopefully inspiring, encouraging people to make the kind of move I've made. So
Yeah.
moving from the UK and all the things that the UK is right now,
America too.
to okay, right. So to somewhere like St Lucia, where, listen, don't get me wrong, St Lucia has its challenges, but it's about trying to find something different, something that feels better, that allows you to be more who you want to be, and all of that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
yes, there's the 9 to 5, the professional, and I plan to hang on to that for the longer term. But actually, what I'm really wanting to do now is develop and support and guide individuals who want to do that transition across the other side of the world to the Caribbean.
I am so intrigued. Thank you for sharing that. What I heard as you described with such vigor, um, is that you have such a detail oriented focus. It's looking at the nuts and the bolts and all the things that make everything but work. What I would imagine what some people might call not the glamorous work, right? But it's the stuff that we need. We need the individuals with that foresight and can connect those dots and that are strategic to make things go. And everybody is not blessed with those skills for sure. I can only imagine how life feels when you're only focused on one thing. I wonder, do you notice that you might find yourself, because it sounds as if there's a desire, a need to be productive in many different spaces. What does it look like as far as, and then I add that to being a Black woman, that's kind of like what we do anyway, right? Can't extrapolate that. How do you how do you prioritize rest when you live a life, it seems, of being on the go, being productive? What does rest look like in the mix?
Oh, that question.
I ask lots of challenging questions.
That question. I'm smiling and I'm laughing because it's a conversation I have a lot, particularly with my sister, because she said to me, when you said you were going to move to St. Lucia, I really thought that you were just going to slow down and chill out and relax more. And I was like, well, I do. She said, well, it doesn't appear to be the case. But I guess, being really frank, it is challenging for me to just literally sit
Mm,
and do what I would consider nothing. And I would not say that I've mastered it yet, but I think I'm working towards it. It's work in progress. And
yeah.
I more there's more opportunity and ability to just breathe and relax here than I've ever had. And I'm enjoying that. But I would say it is absolutely work in progress. I guess
Yeah.
and you touched on it, that Black woman, superwoman tendency is in my veins. It's, I don't think that's just who we are. A lot of us are. And
Yeah.
I am definitely one of those.
Mm,
But But the move to St. Lucia has definitely been about trying to incorporate much more relaxation,
mm,
time, reading the gazillions of books that I've purchased that never have read,
yeah.
listening to music, listening to podcasts, enjoying the view. I am very fortunate. I have a beautiful view. If I could show it to you, I would. Um, and that is really helpful because sometimes I can just sit and get lost in the view. I
Yeah.
can appreciate the nature, the greenery that I'm surrounded by. I look at birds now, for example, and I watch how they move. If someone had said to me, Denise, a couple of years ago, you do that, I'd say, don't be silly. Not me. But I actually can take the time to appreciate those beautiful things now in a way that I've never. So yeah, I'm on that journey to being able to relax much more and look after self much more.
Yeah. I'm grateful. Thank you for sharing that. Whenever I interview women, especially, right, that's always a question. I've noticed that that's always been a question that is a bit more, it stumps them a little bit more. Because most of us, if not every Black woman that I know, is extremely goal oriented, focused. Maybe we might have our different, silos of expertise and desire. But the people that I know and have interviewed have been raised to want to excel in the things that interest them, that they care about. And a lot of times I've noticed that that comes at the expense of rest and wellness, and really prioritizing like their needs. And that for me, I've noticed that that's even harder with mothers, um, putting themselves first. And I guess it can mean making others secondary to like their wellness and things. But as I hear you say that, you're recognizing that it's a work in progress. I'm wondering, how will you know that you've gotten to the point in St. Lucia, loving the work that you're doing, helping other people trailblaze when it comes to moving for,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like being more rooted and present in life? How will
Mm-hmm.
you know that you've reached that point of balance? Or is that even a thing, honestly?
Yeah, is it even a thing? If I'm being really honest, I'm not sure it will be a thing for me.
Mm,
I think for me to feel whole and like me, I'm always going to want stuff to keep me alive.
mhm.
And I think I've really come to that understanding being here in St. Lucia. I think I always knew in the transition period before we even got here that just sitting and doing not very much was never going to work for me, Denise. That's just not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
But I knew that I needed to find something else as well to kind of just help me slow down a little bit. But I think that point where I just do not very much is not what I'm looking for. But I think you're right. It is about finding this balance. And I think that will be when I probably either reduce or let go of my 9 to 5 and maybe just focus more on the coming to St. Lucia and supporting people to make the transition, but also supporting them when they're on island. Because for me, the natural extension of this project is not just bringing them to the island, but it's how I support them when they're here and
Yeah.
creating this community that we all feel that we can rely on, that we can tap into, that we can enjoy each other's company, that we've got each other, that really healthy, positive expat community that does things together and contributes to the island as well. Because that's the other thing that I really want to do is that we're not just here
Yeah.
and doing,
Yeah.
but we're also contributing. And whatever we've got in terms of skills and experience, that we're able to share that on island, because why wouldn't you want to do that? I think that's really important, that you don't come here and just take,
Yes.
uh, you come and you support. And I'm
Yeah.
already here I go again. Here I'm already looking at opportunities to do some volunteering um, with some local girls' charities, because for me, that would be fulfilling.
Yeah.
That would be that would be energizing for me. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed voluntary work that I did in UK. So why wouldn't I want to do that here? So I'm not sure that I've answered your question.
Mm,
Not sure that I'm going to know exactly perfectly when I've achieved it, but I know that um, it's going to be a journey where I will incorporate and will continue to incorporate, as I am doing, more rest, relaxation, and a healthier lifestyle. Even things like things or just drinking more water. And I know that sounds really basic, but it's not something I really used to do.
yeah.
So just
Basic is
simple things.
good. I again, I'm gonna say thank you a lot. Because I tend to ask these things that, maybe people have thought about and then life just gets
Sure.
in the way. But, this is the conversation to really dig deep about decisions that you've made to get you to this point and, what are aspirations that you're hoping to move toward. And I really like the notion of what you shared about one, you don't have to know exactly what it looks like because I recognize that you recognize that it's a process, right?
Mhm.
And some days may look different than the others, but knowing that there are so many opportunities and options to lean into things that you may not have had the space or the time for before, and that's going to look very different for everyone. And
Yeah. Um,
two, I am really grateful that your mindset is of being a fulfilling force, giving back to the community, making sure that you can amplify like what's happening with I think the term you're using is on island, and not just extrapolating, right? Not just being takers. I was reading something a few months ago about individual sentiments of expats coming to Mexico. And just some of the feelings that people have is that things are being, prices being driven up, housing being driven up, just life really changing because, I think a certain aspect of expat community is siphoning off as opposed to really getting immersed and enriched in the culture. And, if you were to kind of like coach someone that's thinking about slowing down, really immersing themselves into island life, and you helping facilitate their process, what would be some things that you would want them to really think about prior to making such a transition in their life?
I would ask them to think about what skills have you got in your toolbox box that you can offer others?
Mm,
Um, because yeah, that's really important. And I think the other big thing is to integrate. Don't come here and just isolate yourself in whatever part of the islands that you live in. Make it your business to find out what's going on island, integrate with the community, understand what's going on, and therefore then understand where you can contribute. Because respectfully, I know there are lots of people that arrive here and just sit. They just sit and they just sit and they enjoy the weather and
yeah.
they enjoy, the things that the Caribbean obviously has to offer. And I guess, that's okay. But I would encourage people to think a little bit more. What can you offer? What skills and experiences have you gathered along the way that you can share with others? And how do you make a positive contribution to
Yeah.
the country that you've chosen to move to?
Yeah. I like that.
That's what I would encourage. And that is certainly something that when I support someone to transition, that I will be sharing with them and encouraging them to do. In fact, I had coffee with someone yesterday, and she's arrived on island, and she's in that stage where she's trying to decide whether this is the island for her. Great. But already she wants to get involved in the community. She wants to do some charitable work. So I was able to kind of signpost her to the couple of organizations that I've already tapped into and want to do some work with. Because yes, why not? Why are we not all sharing?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I get up and do. I like that. What you said was, what skills do you have that can contribute to the country that you're moving to? Not only is that going to help you to make connections, feel rooted, build community, which is a really huge focus of this, conversation that I like to have. It also helps you to identify, okay, how can I fund my lifestyle, right? How can I take care of myself if I'm really trying to reframe the way my relationship with work and career looks like in a different country. Sometimes I feel like people don't give themselves enough space to lean into creativity. And I think sometimes that we don't really believe that we have things outside of what we've been educated, the
To
skills
offer.
educated to learn, that
Yeah,
they matter. But oh my goodness, they do.
right.
As an operations professional, what have you noticed are some of the skills, transferable skills, that people can really lean into to create these other avenues of income or just resources to help the communities that they're moving to?
Sure. I am a I am a planner and an organizer. That's who I am.
Yeah.
I plan, I like the detail, I organize, I get things to happen. I am a completer finisher. If I start something, I want to see it through. And I'm a researcher. I am nosy, I am curious, I like to investigate, I like to dig around, I like to understand. So, and I guess that's another reason why I've started coming to St Lucia, because you have to plan and organize if you want to make this move. You
Mm,
can't do this casually. You got to do lots of research before. You got to investigate all sorts of things to understand, well, what do I need to do? How do I pack up my container worth of, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you need to think through
yeah.
and plan and then organize to get here. And my husband said to me, when we arrived here and we actually got into the house, because we arrived in the height of COVID.
Wow.
Just putting it out there. Not
Yeah.
only were we moving from one side of the world to another, we arrived and did it in the height of COVID. So
Wow.
it was intense. I did the whole purchasing of this property online. Um, but when we got here, my husband said, I can't believe we did this. He said, no, I didn't do this. You did this. He said, because, to do all of what you did and get us here during COVID talks to,
Who you are.
well, determination, but
Yeah.
also that ability to organize. Um, so yeah, it is definitely my strength, my skill, and something that I have more recently learned to embrace. I had a bit of a challenge with it, I guess, in thinking, oh, is it is it a bit annoying sometimes for other people that I'm planned and organized and I've always got, everything sorted out. But now I just sit in that and feel good about that's my strength.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Lean in.
And
Like,
yeah, it's okay to be planned and organized. It's not a
yeah.
rude. So I feel much more comfortable about that. And I guess in some respects, I'm starting to celebrate that a little.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely why I want to do what I'm doing and what I will be sharing with others around you need to be able to do this to
Yeah.
make happen successfully, because by sheer nature of the size of the mission that you're trying to complete, there will be so many twists and turns and frustrations. So if you haven't got a plan that has flexibility in it, because it needs to, but you haven't got a basic plan, it just won't happen.
I hear you. Not in the way you think it would, not in the way you intended to, at least, I imagine. I'm deriving so much like happiness just listening to you share that one, you're being, excuse me, feeling more accepting of the gift that you have, like that gift of foresight, that gift of connection, that gift of really just being able to take something from inception to completion. Everybody does not have that skill. And just to be like a logistical, what's the word that I would use? I don't like the word guru. That's not very culturally competent. I would say just a logistical master, honestly, in the realm that you're trying to go into, or that you're already into, like helping people, facilitating their transition abroad. It is literally all logistics. It is, making sure that you have a plan. One, what's influencing your plan? Like one of the things I am working on and helping people to really think about is, what is your motivation for moving? Because a lot of times I notice that people are running from things. Well, I want to get away from this. I don't like this. And, as a mental health clinician, I'm really helping them to reframe and re-identify what's the abundance that you're seeking as opposed to the lack that you're running from. Put your energy into the thing that you want. Make your plans around the thing that you desire, and not as a way to get away from or disrupt a difficult pattern that you're existing in. And I'm wondering, just doing the work that you're, really skilled to do, are there any, like, even with yourself or clients that you're working with, do you find yourself having to like work with people on their mindset shifts and how they think through things and see things?
Yes. And the first stage and step is set your intention.
Yes.
What is it that you want to move towards,
Yes.
not run away from?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is exactly where we start in terms of the visualization.
Yes.
Why is it that you want to make this move? Why? And what is it that you want it to look like when you've arrived? You need to be able to visualize that. So yes, and yes, you have to start there.
Yeah.
And it has to be about, this is what I'm aiming for. This is my goal. This is what I'm running towards, not running away.
Yeah.
Because we all know there's plenty of things to run away from England. But
yes,
that's not enough.
Yeah.
You have to know what it is that you want to create, and therefore what you're moving towards.
Ooh.
So 100%.
I love that. Like the whole setting intentions, just really
Absolutely.
what you just said. You have to know what it is that you want to create, because running from what you want to escape is just not enough. It's not going to be a foundation to build the type of happy life, I imagine. Or I won't even say happy, because I don't look at things, well, yeah, fulfilling. I think fulfilling is more apropos. The more fulfilling life that is going to have ups and downs, that you're seeking. So I'm curious, when you think about when you and your family were considering this transition, what did that process look like for you? What were some of the intentions that you were setting in the life by design that you wanted to move toward?
Sure. So it was very much in the early stages. It was very much myself and my husband talking about. So I guess where I should start is that we almost set this intention in 1999 when we got married here on Ireland.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's where the journey started.
Awesome.
We in those days, getting married abroad wasn't a huge thing. And in those days, you went to the travel agent on the high street and picked up a brochure. You didn't just Google online and stuff. So in fact, it sounds really funny now, but so we just landed on St Lucia, picked the hotel, arrived here, got married, and it was that kind of idyllic beach wedding, very few people because not everybody could travel.
Right.
So there wasn't many of us, etc., etc., etc. But that's where the thinking and I guess the dream started. Um, and actually, one of my reels on my page talks about this is where we got married. This is where the conversation started in the water when I was trying to cool down my legs from all of the mosquito bites. So said, so done. So, as we started to, get, slightly older and started to think more about, well, actually, how serious are we about this? We've talked about it, but are we really serious about this?
Yeah.
And we had lots of conversations, and then we came and did a number of trips, that exploration. Could we really do it? Not be the tourist, rent a home, and really try and understand the island.
Right.
So it was then around, yeah, maybe we could do this. And actually, let's not do this when we're really old. Let's do this when we can still enjoy
Yes.
life
Yes.
and all that. Because we've all heard the stories when, elderly people go, when they're much later in life, and do it then. But we knew that that's not what we wanted. We wanted to do it earlier when we could enjoy, like I said. So then it was around, well, okay, well, what will I do? What will you do?
Right.
Where will we live? What will this life that we are trying to create look like? And we started to just jot it down, or I started to just write those things down, so that we could. And I didn't know that it was visualization, but I was naturally doing it. And then through the exploration trips that we did, it was trying to say, well, if this is the sort of things that we want to explore when we're here on island, it does it look like we'll be able to do that, basically?
Yeah.
And then, yes, a lot of those questions were answered through the exploration trips. Not all of them, but a lot of them, enough to give us the confidence to say, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And then also part of your question around how do we explain that to our children, to help them understand why we're doing this. So it was around being clear in our own minds so that we could then articulate and share that with other people for them to say, oh, right, okay, I understand. So you're
Yeah.
not just going to go and sit in some villa at the top of a mountain where no one can get you and just look at the view all day and drink rum. No, that's not what we're going to do.
That sounds like a good day, though.
There are some days that we do that.
Yeah.
But that's not how it's going to be all
Yeah.
of the time. So yes, so it is just I say simply, it is about being very intentional, being very clear about this picture. Take the time to sit quietly and jot down those things. When I'm in St Lucia, I want to be able to do. I want to be able to feel. I want to be able to express. I want to be able to enjoy. It is asking yourself those questions,
Yeah.
jotting it all down, and then through the exploration trips that you might well end up doing is seeking the answers to those questions so that you can be sure that you can achieve those things.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, this is like a mental health conversation, and we haven't even touched on like mental health, because you're giving literally the playbook to things that I tell clients every day. It is thinking about what's the outcome that you're seeking, like what's the hope, what's the preferred future, what would that look like? Suppose your goals do come true, right? And this vision that you have in your mind is manifested into real life. What will you notice? And what are you going to do to actually make these things come to fruition? So it's a really good way to help people to formulate goals, to help people to live in alignment, and really to excise, remove the clutter. If
Right.
really focused on, now with flexibility, like you said before, I fully agree with that. But
Yes.
I believe that the more clear you are and the more aligned you are, then I don't like, happy is just not the right word. I think fulfilled is just the word that I keep leaning into, because fulfilled is all encompassing. You might be happy one day, or you might be having one of those days where it feels like everything's going to, to the toilet, and it's just like, why?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's temporary. So let me ask you, Denise, when you think about how long have you all been on island?
2 years.
Okay. So in the last 2 years, I'm wondering, what do you believe has been one of the most impactful moments that you've experienced?
I think it's something that I touched on earlier. And I think it, it's just been able to appreciate life and the beauty. Because as you can imagine, St. Lucia, lots of parts of the Caribbean, are beautiful. It is beautiful here. And I think to just be able to sit sometimes quietly and just appreciate that has been a real moment for me, because it's not who I thought I was.
Mm,
It's not what I thought I would enjoy. It certainly bears no very little resemblance to how I lived my life in the UK. I lived just outside of London, where the pace was intense and it was go, go, go. It was traffic and noise and stuff and stuff. I didn't ever take time to stop and appreciate greenery, the beauty, animals, birds, things like that. I just didn't do that. So to be able to just pause and just whew,
be
is
present.
really yeah, yes, just be present and feel really energized by that, um, has been really impactful. And I try as much as I can to continue to enjoy that and not take that for granted. And I do say to my husband, you know, we need to we need to not take for granted what we're surrounded by. Let's just hang on to the beauty that we're surrounded by and never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear, when we think about, thank you for sharing that. When we hear in the movements that we're involved in when it comes to Black people travel, expatriation, repatriation, um, one of the words that comes to my mind is purpose, right? And like a redefining of purpose. Oh, I need to write that down. A redefining and refining of our purpose. And I wonder, I bring it back to being a Black woman,
Mhm.
because I think in my 41 years of life, right? God willing, I have so many more to live, that our purpose sometimes is rooted in external expectation.
Right.
Um, I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm wondering, when I say the words like redefining, refining purpose, like, how, do you have any connection to that? What could that possibly mean for you at this stage of your life?
So I think it's about, and I think the move coupled with the pandemic has helped me, but I also suspect has helped many people just do exactly what you're asking there, which is
Mm,
redefine.
yeah.
What is it that is important? And what is it that you've maybe thought was important or have been chasing that actually on reflection just really isn't important anymore? So it sounds a little blasé, but just the quality of life is so much more important than
Yeah.
I thought. And it is been that redefining. So listen, I consider I've been successful in my career. And actually, you asked about things that I'm proud of. And one of those things is my career and achieving, being deputy chief exec at my time. Those things I'm proud of. But actually, this new chapter is about um, just feeling more connected um, with self and with others, and obviously with the island, making sure that I've got and focus and emphasize on the quality of the relationships that I have with my children, with my friends and my family who are still in the UK. I think it's that not taking things for granted. And I think when you're away from your family and your friends, you appreciate, oh, that hug, that those relations, that connection, because I'm here and I haven't got that all the time. So when I'm on the phone with them or if I jet back to the UK, it's just appreciating that so much more than I maybe would have done when I was right there in the UK, running at 500 miles an hour, no time for anybody because I've got a zillion things I need to do.
Yeah. Oh, you just said a whole lot. Oh, I hear just not even just ugh, I keep wanting to say just moving, like the transition. It's kind of like when we remove ourselves from the rat race, we are like on the outside of the fishbowl and we get to see how things move differently. Like we have a different relationship with space and time and people. And so it's just like, oh, more clarity, a bit more understanding, the refining, redefining, understanding. And as you just said, which I fully wholeheartedly agree and accept, it really gives you space, like making these moves, expatriating really gives you the opportunity to prioritize and what like not trivialize interactions with people that we love and care about. Like little things don't tend to be as big of a concern as much because especially still living through COVID and all that has been, I think there's been a shift in what's important, right? Oh, you mad about something? Yeah, I acknowledge that you're upset, but is it really enough for us to be mad about, especially when I'm going back to my chosen country in a few days or a few weeks? How do we capitalize? That's what it is. How do we capitalize on the moment and
Yeah.
make the most of it? That's what
Yes.
I'm hearing and
Yes.
feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. You've heard correctly. So it is sometimes, and again, I think what's important to understand is, yes, I lived in London, had quite a senior role, was moving at 700 miles an hour most of the time, and just didn't have time for stuff, which I now appreciate was actually really important stuff. I can recall missing, my children's parents' evening and concerts and all those sort of things because it was all about work.
Yeah.
And actually, when you're here, you just simply get to appreciate those things. And I was saying to my son last weekend, actually, um, you have no understanding how important when you call or when you just text me or when you just send me a little message or a photograph of you being out with your kids at the weekend in the park, or you have no idea what that does for me.
Yeah.
It is so important. And he was like, well, Mom, I said, yeah, I know, but I just want you to know how important that is for me.
Yeah.
It really, yeah, it means so much to just stay connected, to see those things, because yeah, I miss you, but I appreciate these connections so much more than I did.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know what other way to describe it. It's
there
just
is no other
so
way, right? There's definitely no right or wrong way. That the way that you described it makes complete and absolute sense. And I think anybody listening would be able to connect to that, right? The moments matter. They matter
yeah,
a lot more. It's kind of like when you give yourself this gift of time, it's like, if
right,
only I had this then, but also acknowledging and accepting that everything that you've done, right, has given you the opportunity to live life the way that you've chosen to do it now. So it's I would imagine not a regret. Yeah, we probably would like some things to change in the past, but it's also knowing that while you're still here and able to refine, change things, that you can do things differently. And again, like
correct.
you said, invest in those deeper connections and stuff. So I'm really grateful. So I hear like happiness and joy and understanding and hard conversation with self in the work that you've been doing, to get to this point. And I'm wondering, I like to talk explicitly about mental health. I love it. I geek out on it, especially in the context of us living abroad, because depending on where you are, wherever you are, your mental health will be impacted.
Right.
Depending on where you are, that'll be a positive impact or a more
Mm-hmm.
challenging impact. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Beijing. It's been a lot more challenging lately than it was when I
Right.
first got here.
Right.
But I'm curious about what type of psychological shift, self-understanding shift have you noticed in yourself, after making this major life transition?
So I think the the big things is, to be fair, a little bit what we've touched on already. It's more patience.
Mm,
It's not something I had an abundance of, but
mm,
I am really working to develop that. And I think I've made some good progress. Because of that, just some things are just not that important. So
yeah,
just chill, just chill.
yeah.
Stop stressing over what might have felt like the most important thing in the whole wide world when I was back in the UK, but actually here on reflection really isn't a big deal. So just chill. So that's a huge one for me, to be
I can
honest.
hear it. It's palpable. I mean, because being a top executive and and commanding attention and being in charge of all these things, and as you said, multitasking is a way of life. Patience is not equitable, right? All the time when you're having to be in charge of so much, it is very much
I've got
logistically.
stuff to do.
Exactly. So I imagine that's a complete mindset shift.
It is. It's a huge shift. Um, for all the reasons you've just detailed there, it's a huge shift for me. And I think people who might listen to this who know me will think, wow. But yeah, it's been monumental for me. And not just not getting wound up about things that I would have got wound up about. Listen, there are things on islands that, most of us will understand about the Caribbean, that kind of really relaxed, whatever, whenever type vibe exists. It's a thing. I
Right.
can confirm. But it's just being able to maneuver through that and just cut through. Actually, in the big scheme of things, if someone's taking 20 minutes to do something that you would have really expected them to do in 2 minutes, is it really the end of the world?
Mm,
Just kick back,
mm,
just let it go. Whereas in the UK, I might have absolutely ranted about that. I just stepped back and I literally asked my question, is it that important? It is a question I ask myself a lot now. Is it
hmm.
that important? And if the answer is no, I just kick back.
Yeah. I hear I hear lots of increased opportunity for self-awareness and like self-attunement, um, and acceptance, and in that, like letting go.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
again, everything goes back to being Black women because we be running stuff, and I wonder, is that just I know what I want to articulate. Sometimes our persona is wrapped up in being the one to get it done for everybody, right?
yes.
We are the doers. And the world
100%.
tells us that if we aren't being productive, what value do we have?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it look like to come to terms with deriving value, self-value in a different way? Like the image, the doing is different.
I was going to say it feels a bit scary, but
Mm.
actually feels really good. Um, I think it feels good on two levels. It feels good for me, Denise, to be able to recognize that and to be able to articulate that and to feel okay with that. But I think also, I think it's something that more women need to find. And
Mm.
it's about how do I help through the coming to St Lucia piece, how do I help other women find that place? Um, and it's funny because on Friday I was with some friends and we'd driven to a small fishing village about half an hour away from where we live. And again, it was one of those moments where I thought, check me out, as opposed to buying the fish in the supermarket. Here I am in a fishing village, watching the fish come in on the boat and picking my fish, watching it being gutted and cleaned and taking it home and cleaning it and being able to cook fresh fish stew. Check it
Oh,
out.
I love it for you. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Just again, it's one of those moments where I just thought, if anybody had told me that this is what I would be doing, I would have said, don't be silly. Me. And things like, again, being able, and this is going to sound crazy, but just to make my own green seasoning, where you'd normally, or in my previous life, I would have gone to the shop and purchased that. I don't
Yeah,
have time to do that.
yeah.
But now, because I can buy everything fresh, I know where it's come from. I'm supporting a local St Lucian because I'm buying from the roadside, not in a supermarket. That in itself feels good.
Yeah.
And being able to whip up that green seasoning and put that to my fresh fish, what's not to like?
Listen, I hear the pride in all of it. And I am like, it just feels like when you're able to see, sometimes it's really difficult to see like what could it look like, right? Especially when we're mired in responsibility, identity tied to certain, aspects. But then just listening to you describe being able to watch the fish being caught, clean, gutted, it made me think about, I used to do that with my dad. And so it just conjures up all of these positive memories. But I hear just like a self-pride and a bewilderment. And you would have never, thought that life could be this, I think I'm going to say good, being so different.
Yeah. Yeah. And even as I'm saying it, I can hear myself. And that's like, yeah, that's what I did. And then as we drove back, we stopped at a little roadside bar. We had another little drink, and we just, yeah, just like, and actually, when I was sitting there, I was thinking, look at me, I'm just sitting here doing nothing, drinking. I wonder if there's things that I should be doing. And then I literally had to say to myself, Denise, it's Friday. You don't work on a Friday. Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm not a finished article, but I can recognize those moments and I can do that self-talk that says, no, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
This is what you've been working towards. So just enjoy this moment.
Exactly. And I want to encourage you and let you know that it's not doing anything. Like engaging in mindful moments is very much a thing. And like you just said, being able to catch that inner critic when whomever it sounds like is starting to infiltrate, are you being productive? Oh, this is my thing right now. I've set these boundaries with myself. I hear you, but not today. It feels really liberating. I can hear the liberation in as you're describing this new normal of life. And I'd like for you to share, because I just have a few more questions. I'd like for you to share what this looks like to be able to facilitate the process for other women, other people that are interested in coming to St. Lucia. Tell us, what does that look like from your perspective? How do you support individuals?
So it is starting from the beginning. It is that why and what do you want it to look like? It has to start there because the individual needs clarity. So it is around that kind of setting the intention. And then it's around, okay, so if that's what it is that you want to achieve, how do I help you make that happen? So it may not be that I am doing, it's much more about connecting with others because I'm grateful that I've been able to make some positive connections here already on island and developing my network that allows me to signpost people to a great lawyer to help them do that property transaction, to an estate agent who can tour them around the island and show them all of the differences between the north and the south and buying, renting, purchasing land to build, all of that sort of stuff. It is my own experience of this is how you open a bank account. This is how you do your immigration. This is where you go to get your visa stamped. It's all of those practicalities. And then it's around, and actually, when you're on island, what do you like to do? What do you like to eat? Are you a climber? Are you a liming on the beach type person? Okay, so here's some great places to go. This is what you could do on a Friday night. If you like Thai food, here's a great restaurant. If you like this sort of food, here's a great. It's all of those practicalities so that people have got a bit of a start, really. And then they can obviously pursue from there because everybody needs to start somewhere. Everybody needs a little bit of guidance. So it's starting from the beginning in terms of that visualizing and then the practicalities in terms of how do you move towards the goals that you set when you were visualizing. Here are the things and the people and the connections that you're going to need to make all of those things happen, because it doesn't happen by itself. You need those connections. You need to be introduced. You need recommendations
Right.
on island, definitely, so that you don't fall into pitholes and pitfalls and some of the challenges that come with being in the Caribbean. Let's call a spade a spade. Sometimes some things can be really difficult.
Yeah.
So it's about that inside knowledge and sharing that with others based on my experience, but based on the connections that I have.
Yeah.
Because people are going to have frustrations, and trust me, they're going to have lots of challenges. But it's about trying to minimize those as much as possible, trying to reduce the risk, and not getting caught up in and not spending unduly, unnecessarily, because that happens as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a huge process to facilitate. So I see you as a connector, right? And like this leads into this, next to last question I have is, what does it look like to create community, not just like business community in your chosen country, but also like chosen family and people want to go to the fishing village with, and create these new experiences? What does that process look like for you, and how does that like improve the life that you're trying to build or building?
It's about not being selfish. It's about what I've learned, sharing that. So if for example, you do want to have the experience that I've had and buy fresh fish, you there. You can have the experience. I'm keeping all of these things for myself. I want to share those with others. But more it's very much the way I visualize it is when I have helped people transition, I want to be able to create space, and actually not just for women, but primarily it will be for women, that when they arrive in, we connect, that I create opportunities for us to come together and to laugh and to giggle or share, offload, maybe cry because you're missing your family or your friend, things that or like me, you're missing shopping because you can't shop on island the way I used to shop in the UK. So it's about creating a space where we can just come together and we can just do all of those great things that women like to do. And wherever possible, we can include the male partners so they can too have a community of their own that they can share and have the same sort of things that men want to talk about or do. But yes, it's about wanting people to feel safe, and I don't mean that in terms of the country's not safe.
No, yeah,
I
I
mean
know what you
just
mean.
safe in self, and that
Connected.
you've got, right, exactly, that you've got people that you can share with, you can share the happy bits with, but when you're feeling a bit down, you can also share that too, because we all know how important that is. Listen, it's sometimes not easy being thousands of miles away from your family. I miss my family.
Same.
So the ability to be able to share that with someone who will understand quite how you're feeling and why that phone call maybe made you feel really happy and you want to share it, or actually made you feel really sad because you're not there and you wish you were there to support them or do that thing with them. It's been able to share that, because you're with like-minded people who are probably or will at some point be experiencing the same. That's what I want to be able to create, as well as the drinking rum on the beach, liming on a
Gotta
Friday
have the
night.
rum. I mean, we're not trying to take away the fun, so rum tours for sure. I love it though. My last two questions. How has this journey, this move, creating this business, fishing, you know. How has this allowed you to move into more of a healed space? Because I sense like there's healing taking place.
Yeah, space. It's just the time and the space that I've never had before.
Mm.
And you will know that when you're moving at a pace that you just don't have time. You just, oh, I'll deal with that tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes because the next presentation or the next meeting or the next. When you're here, you just don't have that. You have space. So, we even with the difficult things, you have space and time to think about that. And think about, well, faced with a similar, what would I do differently? You have space to think that through. Um, and that's huge for me. It's huge. Even as I'm saying it, I'm not even convinced that I appreciate quite how huge it is yet. But it is huge to just have that time and that space to be and to, as you said, find your purpose and feel good about what it is actually, what it is I'm good at, what makes me me, and be comfortable with me. Because so yes, self-awareness has always been important to me, and I think that's come as a result of always my roles have always been about managing people, managing teams, and self-awareness is critical when you're managing others, when you're responsible for leading others. Being self is crucial. So I'm happy that I've always had a good handle on that. And I'm very much have been involved in 360 feedback, and that can be quite confronting, but
Mm.
I found it so useful and so beneficial. And that I'm not really like that, but actually serious about your leadership style. You go
Right.
away and you think about that, and you
Exactly.
think, yeah, didn't like it, didn't really want to see that written about me, but okay, fine. I kind of really need to work about that. So self-awareness is something I've always been conscious of, very aware of, but actually this last couple of years has just I've been able to turn that up a
Yeah.
notch.
Yeah. Ooh, you've given so many nuggets of wisdom and just especially for like professional. I'll go with people, women, especially. I consider myself to be a professionally minded, woman. And just the things that you're saying, I like that I'm hearing them at this stage in my life. And being able to see that the hard work does pay off just through your example. It makes me think about my mom, other women that I love and appreciate. And also recognizing that I don't have to wait as long as maybe the world has said that I needed to in order to just do things.
Right.
Like I can make changes and have the same level of lifestyle, if not better, sooner than we would have
Yeah.
anticipated. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. How can we follow your journey, support, reach out in the event that, we're interested in, if not visiting, but making that transition to St. Lucia?
Sure. So you'll definitely find me on Instagram at coming to St Lucia. Really straightforward. You'll find me there. You'll find information on the workshop that's coming up on Thursday. We're doing a workshop. So it'll be myself and a number of individuals that I've connected here on the island, doing exactly as I've shared with you, helping people to set that intention, start to think about all the things that they need to start thinking about to formulate their plan. And then, on the back of that, I offer the one-to-one sessions. If you want to speak privately on a one-to-one, then you can connect with me and you can do all of that good stuff. And then I'm working beavering away on organising my first exploration trip for a group of people January, February of next year. So I'll talk about that. And you'll obviously see much more about that on my Instagram page over the next few months around what does that look like? What can you expect? Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that.
It
Because
sounds
that's
great.
planning and organising. That's me. So
Your passion, your passion.
yeah.
I am certain that it will be some great opportunities to connect and get good information. I will support however I can. I will share, whatever I can. This platform is not only about like talking about mental health, but building community and, being a collaborative force for all of us to win. So I'm thankful for you sharing your early moments of your day with me today, and for everyone that is tuning in to the Black Expat Experience again. I am grateful, and I encourage you as always to keep taking risks, keep impacting your communities, and making sure above all that you prioritize your mental health. We win with your support. When we win, we all win, right? So please share, this episode and your audience of influence, and reach out and let us know what else you'd like to hear about. And with that, I want to say, Denise, thank you so much for your time. You have thoroughly fed my soul, and I hope that this has been beneficial for you.
Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And bye, everyone.